Hello, Padmini, and welcome to the Mohan Nadkarni Foundation's MehfiLive series. How's
Uh,
it in
I,
Bangalore?
yeah, Bangalore is fine. It's we are still in lockdown, but at home comfortable, so no complaints. And lots thanks to so many thanks to Mehfil Live and other opportunities, getting to in fact listening and experiencing a lot more music, dance, and theatre than probably we would under normal circumstances. So that's a very positive sign. And before we start, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to you and to Mohan Nadkarni Foundation for giving me this opportunity to share my music. And thank you so much for that.
So let's begin at the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us about your musical journey. How did it all start, and how many years you've been on this path?
Well, I didn't start like a lot of other musicians at a very early age and things like that because as a child I was very restless. So I didn't want to sit in one place. I could not sit in one place. And so I was not inclined to learn. But I was all the time, I grew up in an environment of almost 24/7 music because we were very closely associated with the Dagar family in Chembur in Bombay. So every Sunday evening there would be a baitak at Dagar Saab's place. So that was one thing my mother was very firm and unyielding on. She said, Sunday evening you have to come with me, no excuses. So initially I would go reluctantly because I missed my play, but then being surrounded by music of very very high caliber, somewhere I think the soil was being prepared, or even though I didn't know it then, for the seeds to be sowed. And even we used to have a lot of musicians who used to come home and sit at in our tiny little flat in Bombay, and Sultan Khan Sahab, Nizamuddin Khan, people of those caliber who would come and sit and play and check very informally. So we just grew up with music constantly in the background. But when I got serious and really the desire to learn grew in me, I was around 15, so not very early age. I began with the sitar under my Guruma Srimati Pramila Dagar, because at that time Dagar Saab was teaching in, I think, in Wesleyan University in the US. And I was also I started learning vocal music under Pandit Manohar Rotaukar because Chandrasekhar Narengrkar ji, he introduced, because Guruji was very patient and very good with children and youngsters and beginners like me. So I started there. And this continued. Sitar I learned for 7 years. And in the meanwhile, we shifted our residence for a variety of reasons. Guruji was not able to come and teach. And Bombay being a big city, he lived very far. So at that time, Dadar Sahab uh, used to come home, be in India also. And I felt that my music, interest in vocal music was stronger. And that actually around the age of, I think, 19, I very, very intense and rigorous voice culture training started with Dagar Saab, and that continued. My education with him continued until for 11 years until he passed away. So that is how I set out on that journey, at not at a very young age though, around the age of
That's
19.
interesting. You learned sitar for 7 years and then
Yes.
went off to vocal. How did that transition happen? And why?
While I was learning sitar, about 2 years or so concurrently, there was an overlap with Dagar Saab. And in those 2 years, I would have this thought that this time I can, because I was also studying in college, and I would feel this time which I'm spending practicing sitar, I could practice vocal instead, because I found that both were very demanding masters and I was not able to do justice to both. And yeah, it was one of the most difficult conversations I had with my Guruma, that I want to devote my time completely to vocal music. But the impact of it has been there because my foundation was with that. So I have had people telling me that we can see, normally in instrument you see gaiki ang, but in your gaiki we see instrumental
Ang.
approach. Maybe because the foundation was started there. Yeah.
Okay. And how did it all come to conclusion at Prabhatai's door?
Yeah, that is because when I was doing chemistry, I'm a chemistry graduate, and I was all set to do pursue a career in as a research chemist. And but at the same time, I was doing French, I was doing theater, I was doing music. I didn't know where to go, so I took a gap year. And at that time, Dagar Saab was told me, he said he always felt that in the Indian context, a degree in music is very useful if you want to be associated with an institution going forward. So he said, "Beta, you इस पे थोड़ा गौर करना चाहिए पढ़ाई, you have to study, get a degree." And at that time, SNDT, Prabhatari was the head of the department, so I went to meet her. And I was just blown away by her sheer humility and open-mindedness to somebody like me who really came with a blank mind and blank slate, you know. And Dagar sir was the one who was keen that I've always been a huge fan of Prabhatai, like so many countless others, that I should learn Khayal. And the zeroed in on Kirana Gharana because Kirana Gharana's the founder was Bande Ali Khan Sahab, who was a Rudra Veena player and who also was a Dhrupad singer. So there was a direct connection with what I was already doing. And temperamentally, I realized that down the road, and not at that point, that they are quite similar, Dhrupad and especially Kirana Gharana, because it's very meditative, it's very alap pradhan, slow tempo, you know. So there was no clash or confusion in the mind to imbibe both these streams simultaneously. And Dagar Saab, he was the one who was a driving force behind my going to Prabhatai. He told me, "You learn from Prabhatai. Her music is what will suit you very well," which was remarkable for both my gurus. For him to suggest going to another guru, and Prabhatai has been, was, and continues to be one of the most generous gurus. She welcomed me with open arms. She has never held back. So that is how I went to Prabhatai as a student first in the college, and then I continued from there. All and the association still continues.
To
That is
borrow
how.
your phrase which you just used, Gayaki Ang, similarly, is
Yeah.
there a Drupad Ang, so to speak, in your khayal?
Well, I would like to think so because the way my basic grounding was with Dagar Saab, so the method of applying the swar, the way they hone in on the swar, I mean, it's not like others don't, but I'm talking about myself. And the emphasis on the accuracy of the swar, or even in singing khayal, normally you don't see too many in Kirana doing boltan upaj, the using that combining that lay sur and tal. It's a very exciting combination of melody and rhythm, the way you within the rhythm framework. So which was not now, which I had not, I feel learning Drupad helped me to work on that technique.
Mm.
And again, like I said, I feel then I believe they have a shared heritage.
Mm.
It's
Of course, yes.
that the and I've always maintained this khayal grew out of Drupad, and a child has to resemble his parents, right?
Right. That's very well said.
That
Speaking of
so
speaking of Gharanas, what are your views on staying true to a Gharana style? What do you think of, you know, there's lots of experimentation going on. People adopt various things. Not that it's a good thing or a bad thing, but what's your
yeah,
personal opinion about
my
fidelity?
personal view is my personal view is that gharanas need not be watertight compartments. There can be an infusion of ideas within there's certain amount of flow of creative ideas and idioms, but
Where do you draw
I
the
feel
line?
yeah, this is one of the strongest points of our music, is that it's your individuality which is rooted in a common base. So you can have a Yaman sung by a Kirana Gharana or a Yaman by a Jaipur or Agra, and they all come wearing a different garment, you know. And you can see the outlook, you can see the chaya, you can see the characteristics of Yaman, but each one is wearing a different, is coming in a different form while being rooted in the common base. So if everyone, so in that sense, I believe that certain adherence to the gharana is desired, and I like to do that.
Hmm.
Because if we all try to sing like one another, where is the difference?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, I believe you've lived away from India for many years,
Yes,
outside India.
30 years.
How
For
did you
30
keep
years.
your sadhana going, and how did you, keep in touch with
It
Prabhat?
was very challenging. It was very challenging and very difficult. But I am very blessed because my I very strongly had this passion. I turned my back on everything for music. There were so many things I wanted to do, and I just said no. This is where I want to be. So that is that was definitely my uh, that helped me to keep the fire alive. But living in different parts of the world where there was no what we say mahol, there was no mahol at all. But there is where my family support came in, because we lived outside where we had to do everything ourselves. My parents from the very beginning, after my marriage, my husband has been the wind beneath my wings. His support. I mean, when my children were young, I used to get up at 3 in the morning, because 3 to 6:30 or 7 I used to do my riyas. Because after that I had to do the cooking and getting them ready to school, and also my husband would actually, I'm sharing a little family secret here. He would get up and make tea for me, because I don't function unless I get a cup of tea made by somebody else. So he would make the cup of tea at 3 in the morning, get up and make it, and then go back to sleep. And every day after day for years. So even the children, I mean, I too many to count meals of sandwich or khichdi, because I just didn't find the time to cook. But not one day anyone in the family said, "What is this?" They were able to share my vision and see the path that I'm walking on. And I feel if the passion is there in the path itself, that path starts appearing before you. And I used to keep coming all the time to India. So, and my good and very supportive gurus. I used to keep coming whenever I came, whenever I want, as often as I want. Prabhat, I would say, "Come. What do you want to tell? How would you?" So, and she would allow me to record what I would record what she taught me, and then because I could come only 2 months in a year when the children had holidays,
And there was
July,
no
August.
online training in those days.
Nothing, no, or no. There was no YouTube as a resource or anything. And and I used to come in July, August, which, as you know, in Bombay is the peak monsoon season. But I think the option of not doing never even occurred to me, because I had everyone who supported me.
Mm.
Whole, I couldn't have done it without their support, family, gurus, everybody.
But you just said that, for the sake of music, you turned your back on many things. But it doesn't
Yes.
look like it, because you've done theater, you know 6 languages, you've composed music, you've translated compositions. How have you managed to pursue all these and still say that you turned away from
In the
everything?
sense that I was doing professional theater. I gave it up because I now I'm just I've done a odd play one and here and there, but not as a proper theater artist, a professional theater, because it was impossible. The music world starts at 4 a.m. I would come home at 2 after rehearsal until 1, and I did that for a year, and then my father said, "You have to make a choice. At this rate you're going to collapse. You can't."
What part of
So
theater was that, if I can ask? Was
I
it,
was doing avant-garde theater with Jaidev Hattangadi and Rohini Hattangadi.
so it's
I used to,
acting? You're doing
yeah,
roles?
yeah, acting. I used to act, yeah. I used to act on stage. I love theater.
Mhm.
I love literature. So I like to write. I'm not a writer, but I love writing, and I do write poetry and thing. And I still do that it relaxes me. So
Do you compose bandishes as well?
yes, I do. I do.
Mhm.
I do compose bandishes, and taken the cue guidance from my guru, and like my guru has I mean very much inspired by one of her approaches among the many, that she uses a lot of Carnatic ragas. So she takes the rag and composes Hindustani bandishes in those rags, like Amrita Varshini or Veena Vadini, or Himavati. And so I've also been inspired to do that.
Mhm.
And and composing music for bhajans. I don't write the poetry. We have got such great saint poets in our literary heritage. So I take their poetry, and compose music to it.
And what about the six languages? How did you go about
Well,
picking?
French was English, Hindi, Marathi. We all know, all from Bombay, Konkani. Then I grew in a Gujarati neighborhood, so I could. I had a neighbor who was who loved to, who always had a lot to say only in Gujarati. So that's how I learned it. And French I did for 8 years actually, through school, college, and diplôme de langue at Alliance Française. And Dutch, yeah, I took Dutch lessons when we lived for 5 years in Holland when my husband was posted in Amsterdam for 5 years. So at that time, I went for Dutch because I mean I'm not very fluent in Dutch, but like Hindi, Marathi, I think every language brings its own world of poetry, literature, and riches actually. And so we are so lucky that we can enjoy and understand so many different languages. It opens so many worlds to us, fascinating worlds to us. So
So, what do you propose to sing on Saturday?
well, I'll start with a khayal and then maybe a bhajan or a thunri, and I probably round it off with a bhairavi.
Yes, because you've
Bhairavi.
got a very impressive repertoire, and we would like to get glimpses of as much as possible of the facets
Yeah,
of your
I'll do my best.
repertoire. And I hope we get to hear one of your own bandishes. If
Yes, I am working. I'm hoping to do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, and very nice of you. This was a great talk, and I think
Thank you. Thank you. It
we'll
was a
encourage
pleasure.
people to see this interview before they listen to you, and even after. And it's will always remain on this page. So thanks again, and looking very much forward to Saturday.
Same here. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.